Hello viewers. Juanita Bynum, delivered with the fire and authority she's known for, suddenly ripped through the quiet of the gospel world. What should have been a simple sermon clip turned into something far more dramatic, and the camera captured it all. As her words echoed across social media, Prophet Carn's reaction surfaced online, and within hours, it spread like wildfire. His expression, his tone, his silence. Everything about that moment felt loaded, electric, almost prophetic in itself. And people began to ask the question no one had dared to speak aloud: what did he hear in her message that shook him so deeply? To understand why that reaction hit the nerve it did, we have to go back, long before the viral posts, long before the controversy. Back to the roots that quietly connected these two powerful voices. Juanita Bynum had carved her place in modern ministry decades earlier. Her rise was built on boldness, vulnerability, and a willingness to confront the issues most preachers danced around. She had lived through public storms, heartbreaks, betrayals, and spiritual transformation, and she carried all of that into the pulpit every time she spoke. Her words weren't just sermons, they were fire. They were warnings. They were mirrors people didn't always want to look into. Carn, on the other hand, emerged as a prodigious prophetic voice, a young man whose accuracy and intensity drew crowds long before he was ready for the weight they would bring. From early on, his ministry was marked by power and pressure, adoration and controversy. Fans celebrated his fearlessness. Critics analyzed every move he made. And somewhere along the way, these two worlds, Bynum's and Carn's, began to overlap. They were never enemies. Never allies. Just two towering figures sharing territory in a spiritual landscape too small for misunderstandings to stay hidden. They attended the same conferences, shared stages, navigated the same networks. People whispered about quiet disagreements, unspoken rivalry, stylistic clashes. But the church world knows how to bury tension under politeness. Until the day someone decides not to hold back. When Bynum stepped up to deliver the message that would eventually shake the faith community, no one in the audience expected a storm. But from the first few minutes, it was clear this wouldn't be a gentle exhortation. Her tone sharpened. Her pacing slowed. Her eyes carried something weighty, something old. She spoke of accountability, spiritual immaturity, leaders who had strayed from responsibility. She spoke of people who prophesied but lacked integrity, who preached but ignored correction. She didn't call a name. She didn't have to. The delivery was too precise, too charged. Every sentence felt like a warning shot. The clip hit the internet and people immediately began dissecting the message. But they weren't prepared for what came next, because then, the camera caught Carn. His reaction wasn't loud or dramatic. It was subtle, tense, and strangely revealing. His eyes shifted. His jaw tightened. His voice, when he finally spoke on his live stream, carried a strange mix of humility and hurt, reverence and restraint. It wasn't the confident prophet the world usually saw. It was someone wrestling with something deeper, and this was only the beginning of the heartbreak. Within hours, Carn's reaction was clipped, analyzed, reposted, and flooded across every social media platform. Supporters praised his honesty. Critics accused him of deflection. And spectators watched with fascination, convinced they were seeing something the church world had carefully kept behind closed doors. But what most people missed was the history, the years of subtle tension, the unspoken disagreements, the layered context that shaped this moment long before the cameras rolled. Both leaders had spent years navigating a ministry world filled with rivalries, expectations, and private conversations the public never hears. They had stood near each other, preached near each other, and carried similar burdens with wildly different approaches. And beneath that surface was a truth neither ever spoke openly about: influence is a battlefield. And when two prophetic voices share the same space, the spiritual atmosphere shifts. So when Carn reacted to Bynum's message, it wasn't just about her words. It was about years of pressure, whispers, competition, and the expectation that prophets must stand united even when they see things differently. As the reaction video continued to spread, more details began to emerge from insiders, hints of private conversations, moments of disagreement, differences in prophetic interpretation. People who had once stayed silent began sharing cryptic comments online, deepening the mystery and inflaming the curiosity. But then something unexpected happened. The louder the conversation grew, the quieter Carn became. Instead of clapping back, instead of defending himself, instead of dragging the conversation further into chaos, he shifted into reflection. His next livestream was softer, slower. The firebrand preacher seemed almost tired. Tired of debates. Tired of rumors. Tired of carrying the weight of perfection the public demanded. He finally said words that caught his audience off guard. Sometimes the truth confronts you whether you like it or not. It seemed like a confession. It seemed like acknowledgement. But it also seemed like a plea for peace. The moment felt like a turning point, not just for Carn, but for the entire conversation. Suddenly people stopped asking, who was right, and began asking, what is really happening behind the scenes? And that's when the real discussions began. Ministry leaders debated privately. Conferences referenced the moment publicly. Faith-based media began analyzing the deeper implications of two prophetic giants reacting to each other in real time. Followers started questioning how leaders should respond to correction and what prophetic accountability actually looks like. What started as a simple clip had become a cultural moment. A mirror held up to the modern church. A reminder that behind the sermons are human beings with histories, insecurities, and stories the world has never heard. Tonight, the dust is still settling. No one knows exactly where this moment will lead, reconciliation, distance, or something entirely unexpected. But one thing is undeniable. The message shook the church. The reaction shook the internet. And together, they exposed a world most people were never meant to see. Because in the end, this was never just about a sermon or a reaction. It was about legacy, authority, and the fragile humanity behind the people we call prophets. They didn't just speak. They became the story itself. Which part of their journey struck you the most?